Good evening, everybody. Steve Wellings here for the Boxing Asylum. We'll get stuck straight into our interview for this evening. Delighted to have the main man, top trainer, Don Charles, with me this evening. Good evening, Don. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Very well. I'm keeping well. Don, actually, to be honest with you, you're out in Spain at the moment. Is that right?
Yes, we are. Yes, an undisclosed location, but in Spain.
And how's everything going there? How's the training and preparation in this undisclosed location?
Yeah, everything is going according to plan, and God willing, we have another. It's actually exactly 4 weeks away from the fight. So, so far, so good.
Excellent stuff. So, obviously, without giving too much away, what's the kind of plan out there? I mean, you training? Is there any sparring? I mean, what are you working on?
Most definitely, obviously, it's we're not doing anything. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's the normal procedures. It's just that camp is where you put it. We happen to bring the camp to Spain. Sometimes we do camp in London, but for this particular fight, we've opted to do it away. There's loads of reasons. I'm not going to go into details. Beneficial reasons that why we're out here. We've been out here for a while, and yeah. It's I think we made the right decision to have done what we've done.
Excellent stuff. I've got a few questions from the boys. They're throwing them in for you, Don. So we'll hit you with this first one from Chris. He said, "What's Don been most impressed with in Daniel Dubois since the time he's had him in the gym?"
Yeah, basically, as is well documented, we haven't been together that long. We've been together 14 weeks now. This is the 14th week since I've been working with this young man. Like I've always said in the past few weeks that this is the first time in my 20-year career as a trainer that I use the word inherited an established fighter of this caliber. So what I've been most impressed is that with my experience now, what I look for now is a student's ability to take information and learn, willing to learn, a listening student, and Daniel has all those qualities. Yes, I'm very impressed with his listening ability and able to soak up new information. Yeah, so I've been very impressed with that.
What was your opinions on Daniel before he joined you? Obviously, we've seen his rise on BT. We've seen his documented fights against the likes of Joe Joyce. What was your opinion and your impressions and your sort of pre-knowledge of Daniel before he hooked up with you?
Yeah, I've actually I've known Daniel for since he was 17 years old. His father actually brought him to get a few rounds with Derek Chisora many years ago when, like I said, Daniel was only 17 years old. So I got a close look at him as a young man, and obviously I didn't have anything to do with him till I started seeing him on television. As you know, he turned professional early in I think he turned when he was 19 years old. And for a 19-year-old young man to have achieved what he's achieved in the last six years, it's remarkable. Like I said, the first impressions when I saw him, actually, the day he came to spar Derek Chisora when he was a mere 17 years old, I saw him I walked into the gym. He was already in the gym with his father and the trainer who brought him along. And I saw his back. I thought, surely that come because they told me how the chap they were bringing. So when I saw this person, a man, I saw a man because I saw him from behind. I thought the shoulder. I thought, surely that can't be the 17-year-old. And to my surprise, when I then came in front of him and I was introduced, I thought, my goodness, you saw the baby face. So he was 17. I thought, oh my God, he had the physique of a man, even back then. So obviously I've monitored his development see him on TV and stuff, his rise. Yeah, I've been very impressed with him. I mean, how can you not be impressed with a kid that he didn't have an extensive amateur career and he turned professional quite early. And this young man, like I said, what's his record? He's had the one loss, obviously, against Joe Joyce. He's not 18 opponents out of 19. So that's a very impressive stats. Yeah, he's renowned for being a puncher. He's well educated in the sense that his boxing fundamentals are all intact. He's a very well schooled boxer. You know, like I said, his fundamentals, the things you normally, whenever you get a new fighter, the things that most of the times you've had to fix their footwork and stuff. And so, yeah, he brought that. That's one of the most difficult thing to teach a fighter, the stance. And Daniel's got a magnificent boxing stance. But obviously, I know what I'm working. I'm not gonna disclose that. I know what I'm working. That my observations, even prior to working with him, I've always questioned why doesn't he do X, Y, Z. So I was fortunate to. I didn't know. I had no inclination over the years that I would end up training this young man, and then haven't gotten with him now. So I know the things I used to ask questions when I used to watch him on telly. Why doesn't he do X, Y, Z? I'm now being able to introduce those things, my findings, to add to what he already has, and he has a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you mentioned footwork there, actually, Don, because we had a question from one of our other contributors, the Doctor FMG, and he was asking about things like ballroom dancing and footwork. And he said it's interesting to get your take on the general state of footwork within the current pros. We see the Ukrainians, guys like Lomachenko, Klitschko as well was big on this. A lot of sort of ballroom dancing, Ukrainian dancing and stuff, and getting the footwork down to a T as best as they can, getting that balance.
Yeah, it's been well documented that a lot of Eastern Europeans, like when these guys are young, their parents generally take them to gymnastics, in some cases, dance schools to learn all different various types of dance, which I don't believe they knew they were going to go into boxing when the parents were taking them, talking about when they're like 6, 7 years, 8 years old. So they get them to do all these sorts of activities, dance being one of them. And like I said, gymnastics is very predominant within that community, because they don't know what this kid's going to branch off to become, whether they're going to be a footballer or a boxer, or a dancer, you know. So coincidentally, those who have then gotten into doing the boxing from being their upbringing, being they've had, an introduction to movement. Because what I always say to people, from my understanding, how I see boxing is a dance. But it's a very violent dance, and it's movement. So therefore, the likes of your Lemechenkos, your Usyks, they've all done things like this, being young. So when they now chose to do boxing, naturally they had this movement, which they didn't. It's not something that was taught to them by a boxing coach. It's just something that they already done as a child, that's already installed in them. Yeah. Coincidentally, then they take up the sport of boxing, which when you fuse that, then, like I said, it goes back to my understanding that boxing is actually a dance, but although it's a very violent dance. In fact, one of the books I'm writing in the future, I already started it, and it is called that, Boxing and Strapline. It's a dance, a violent dance. It's movement. I don't know if you remember the art, what is it called? The Brazilian capoeira.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That is a dance, but with no, it's a fight, but with no contact.
Mm.
Yeah. I believe it was introduced during the days of slavery. They were on the ships. They weren't allowed to get into a confrontation or fight each other. So they devised a way of fighting without contact, as in contact by harming each other. Yeah. So if you watch it, have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen it performed?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it in action, no.
Well, yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch, because they're doing, like, it's like a form of karate, but with no contact. They're kicking over your head, kicking. They're both taking it. It's a fight, but it's with no contact, and it's the most beautiful thing to watch. So that's the nearest I could give to uh, fighting being a dance. It's movement. If you get a chance, I encourage anybody, go and watch Brazilian capoeira.
Mm-hmm. That's something I'm definitely gonna have to catch up on. I am aware of it, but I've never actually watched it. And speaking of dancing, violent dancing, as you mentioned there, August the 26th in Poland against Oleksandr Usyk, the chance of a lifetime for Daniel Dubois. What about the location, Don? Wrocław in Poland? Not familiar with it myself. What information do you have about that? What do you know what you're going into?
Yeah, we know we're going to a stadium of 45,000 capacity, a stadium that they're going to install a boxing ring inside it that has a referee and the two fighters. So no matter where you go, how foreign it is, like I said, as long as it's under those rules where there's a boxing ring that has a referee who can count to 10, that's all we want.
Mm-hmm. Are you worried about the dark arts or anything like that?
About the what my
The dark arts of boxing, the thing, the ring, the things beforehand, all
yeah,
that, the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
shenanigans.
Yeah, we're I'm experienced enough now to know what to look out for. I'm well traveled, so I also looking at previous people like Tyson Fury, David Haye, when they've gone abroad to fight, all the tricks that the opposition gets up to with the rings, like extra padding, ropes, check that. I know what to look out for. You can never eradicate total eradication, but you can minimize what they tricks they can pull on you. So no, we're good. We like I said, we know what to look out for. And like I said, you can never eradicate every advantage they may want to gain on you. That's where the experience comes into it, So yes, I'll be looking out for a lot of things that I know they can do to us to get an advantage. But like I said, as long as we minimize, reduce what they can get away with or what we can't see with naked eye, but we're good. We're good.
Excellent. Another couple of questions for you here, Don. One from Danny Young. He said Usyk is quite rightly considered one of the pound for pound best fighters currently. When was the first time you were aware of him, and what have you enjoyed of his career to date?
I've actually, because I'm a boxing fan, although I'm a coach, but I'm also a fan. I watch boxing. So he came into my radar when he actually, was it the WSB series?
World Series of Boxing, yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Where he actually fought Joe Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a very, very, very close fight, him and Joe Joyce. I believe it was a split decision, if I'm correct. He got it by split decision. And that's when it came onto my radar. And obviously I've monitored him since then. And in fact, no, I noticed the first time I noticed when he won his Olympic gold medal at 2012 in London. As a heavyweight, I believe he campaigned on the heavy as an amateur. Obviously, that's when I first heard his name and saw that he got the gold. Then I happened to be following that series, the World Boxing Series, and I saw him fighting Joe Joyce. It was a very close fought fight, and he nicked it by split. And then, yeah, the rest is history. He's gone on to do great things, and remarkably, yeah, he's done really well. Undisputed cruiserweight. Then he made the transition to becoming a heavyweight, and he's doing very well so far. He's had 4 fights as a heavyweight, and he's won a world title, unified champion. So what he's achieved is remarkable. It really is. So yeah, it's he's a good valid champion.
Yeah, I think one thing in the fight against Joyce as well was that his engine, he takes over in fights. He's very fit and strong. Although I thought Anthony Joshua had a lot of success with him to the body, especially in their second fight. But he has that engine, that stamina down the stretch.
Yeah, it's not just the engine. This guy is mentally very strong. Yeah, I've studied him. I've looked into him. I have to. I have to operate like a detective. If you're going to catch a crook, what you have to become them. You have to go into their head momentarily, and what where they're going to next commit a crime. You have to be steps ahead of them. So I believe I'm playing a detective out to catch a serial offender, if I can put it that way. So that's what I've been doing for the since as you know, he fought a student of mine. Although I didn't train Derek Chisora for the fight against Usyk, it was one of the periods where Derek was not with me, or working with me at that period. Yeah, Derek to date, Derek Chisora has given Usyk his toughest fight as a heavyweight. Yeah, he's given Usyk the toughest ride. Anthony Joshua, yes, he had a few rounds in their last encounter where he could have actually ended the fight, but he didn't. Like I said, Usyk is very, very, very strong mentally. It's not just a physical thing. He's mentally very strong.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about Derek in a minute, if that's okay. Just firstly, Patrick sent in a question. He said, would be interested to hear if Daniel is slimming down for the fight, and if so, whether that's Usyk specific or a general change.
Certain things you're going to ask me, I'm not at liberty to
Okay.
answer. So I will just say no comment. Without being rude, I'm not a rude man. It's just
Mhm.
it's too delicate in the sense that we're near the fight, we're 4 weeks away, and certain questions I'm going to say. So if we have an agreement, Steve, that I'm going to say to you, no comment.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
All right.
The boys have given me the questions. I'll ask you, and obviously,
Sure,
if you
sure,
don't want to answer them, yeah,
sure,
that's
sure.
absolutely fine. Kevin has sent in a question actually about George. He said, "What about Don's son?" I remember him mentioning in an interview before. Not heard of him since. George was on with us on the Asylum on a Sunday evening. What's going on now? Because I know he had the setback against Sokolowski, didn't he?
Yeah, things happen in life. I'm old enough now to recognize that, when some things happen that are not meant to happen, as us as humans in general, you question why. The answer reveals itself somewhere along the line. In my son's case, George is probably one of the best heavyweights technically that I've not because he's my son that I've witnessed, I've had the privilege of working with. Yeah. Even Tyson Fury, he's done 3 counts with Tyson Fury in the past, and Tyson Fury is of the same opinion, right? But if it's meant to be for him, it will be. Time is getting on. He's getting on now. Yes, he had that setback with Sokolowski. I won't go into details. I don't believe he lost the fight. He doesn't believe he lost the fight. The television commentators don't believe he lost the fight. But according to the referee, he awarded my son 1 round out of 8 rounds when I believed we won at least 5 rounds out of those 8 rounds. Yes, Sokolowski came on strong in the last 3 rounds by landing single power shots. Doesn't unless you knock the person out, doesn't win you those rounds. But it wasn't George's best performance by far. Okay, I hate making excuses. That he as a man will right the wrong, but unfortunately, he got struck with illness. I'm not going to go into details. So first, he's my only son. I don't have any other children on this planet. So I've said to him, if it's meant to be for you and you get over what you're going through health wise, then should you want to box, the skills don't go anywhere. He's got skill. If he was to bottle the skills he has in cans or bottle, he'll be a very wealthy man, right? It'd be a travesty if he doesn't fulfill his career, what his ambition. But if it's meant to be, then it will be. If it's not, then it will not be. My son is a very clever young man. If it's not boxing, wherever he puts his hand to, he will be successful. He's very, very, very intelligent young man. So yeah, that's basically that. I won't expand any more on that, except for thank you for asking those who are asking for him. Like I said, if it's his destiny to continue and fulfill his career as a heavyweight boxer, then it will still happen. He's still very fresh, although age is he's 30 years old now. Uh, Heavyweights have a slightly longer shelf life. Like I said, he's very fresh. There's not a lot of mileage on the clock there. So that's that regarding my son.
Excellent, thank you. Also, we had a question from Joseph regarding Derek Chisora. He's going back to an incident which I'm sure you remember very well. Don, he says, was Derek really going to physically shoot David Haye? Going back to the night, do you remember? What's your
No,
thoughts? Go back now.
yeah, I remember that night in Munich, an awful night in Munich. Yeah, no, come on, it was just momentarily where when we're angry, we say silly things. It was just a silly thing to say. It was a reaction based on the situation that not supposed to have happened, but it happened. You know, no, no, he's just what he was very angry because that was Derek's hour. He'd just been in a 12 grueling round with Vitaly Klitschko, one of the hardest hitting heavyweights in history. And we went 12 rounds. Derek went 12 rounds with him. And then for David Haye come into the room, ridiculing Derek, which had no rights to be in that room. And coincidentally, when a few years later, he was managing Derek Chisora. So it's very bizarre. But hey, that's boxing. It's show business.
It is indeed a show business, which leads me on to the final Chisora question for you, Don, from Ryan. He says, is Chisora as random and unhinged as he seems on IFL and at press conferences as he is on the day? Is it all an act, or is he prone to losing the plot?
No, Derek, I can give you firsthand is that Derek is very unpredictable. Yeah, he's a very complex character. Yeah, it's just he is. No, that's not an act. God, if that's an act, he should win an Oscar because bloody he's been acting it for a long time. Then, no, he's a character. He's the lovable rogue in the sense that I love the British public because initially he was being ridiculed. He wasn't liked. And then they've embraced him now because they've understood him. It was Derek was very misunderstood in the beginning of his vast majority parts of his career. He was very misunderstood by the public based on his actions. And but I think they've embraced him now. He's become an icon. And I'm proud of him. I'll be honest with you. I'm not proud of some of the things he's done, of course not. But I'm proud of how he's ended up. He's my first son in boxing, and like I said, he gave light to me in the sense that through working with him, gave me the platform that I'm going to make use of. So I will always acknowledge that, and I will always owe him that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said there was only two questions on Derek. Sorry, Hattem had thrown in a question for you as well. He was just asking about your opinion regarding the split first time round with Derek. How did it come about that you guys stopped working together?
It's just one of those things in boxing. I'm not the first. I'm not going to be the last. It happens. Derek has parted from myself on 2 occasions, and he's always come back. He knows where home is. I am the beginning of him. He's the beginning of me. So when he goes away and he doesn't get what he wants, the success, he will always come back home. The door is always open for him because, like I said, he gave light to me. He brought light to me. He put me on the platform, and I'll never, no matter what. I've carved out a really good career for myself by working with Derek Chisora. So the love I have for the young man is there's nothing can get in the way of it. No matter what happens. Whether he goes, whether he stays, the love is the same. Unconditional, should I say, love? Yeah. So
Brilliant.
that they have it.
Excellent. Just have a couple more questions for you, Don. We do thank you for your time. I don't want to keep you too long, obviously. Damo's thrown in one for you. He said, "What does Don look for in a fighter to establish whether he wants to work with them or not? Obviously, skills and potential are one thing, but what about the more personal elements with a fighter?"
Yeah, like I said, I look for. I'm well raised. My parents have done a good job with me. Manners will get you a long way in life. So I look for their mannerism, and a disciplined athlete. There's no point in training a guy who's so talented and then he doesn't have no discipline, life disciplines. I'm not just talking about discipline in boxing. Outside of boxing, how does he live? What's his family background? How does he treat people? There's a thing. You got to be a nice person. I'll give you a prime example. One of the finest students I've ever worked with is a chap. In fact, all of them. I'm only known for Derek, but I've worked with a number of other beautiful people. Frank Buglioni being one of them, an immaculate individual in every which way, as a boxer as well as a family person. He's got a very, very good family background. He has a lot of respect, as a human being. He's a clean living human being. Then you've got Miles Shinkwin, whom I worked for. I spent 2 years with Frank Leone, also equally the same time with Miles Shinkwin. I got them after they'd already been round the block, if you know what I mean, but was still achieved. Okay, so these are the sort of examples of the type of boxers I've worked with. That, like I said, the Miles Shinkun again is a family man and very well disciplined, clean living human being, and so that's what I generally look out for in if I'm going to work with a fighter, what their background is. You know, don't care how much skills you got, how talented you are. If you're a nasty individual, I'll tend to not to want to get involved.
Yeah,
I'm
you can have
I'm
all the
not
talent in the world, but if you're not professional, like you say, you're not a decent person, then you're
yeah,
gonna have more problems than
absolutely,
advantages.
absolutely. So there you have it.
Yeah. Final one for you, Don, before we let you go. This is from Danny Young again. He says, I understand you've sparred Danny Williams, Henry Akinwande, James Smith. I like hearing sparring stories. So was there anything notable about these particular sessions?
Yeah, I'll give you just outlines because otherwise we'll be here all night. I tell long stories. Yeah, Danny Williams. I boxed for Brixton ABC in my time, and Danny Williams is 10 years my junior, and I campaigned at super heavyweight, and in my club it was a small club, but so it was above a pub called the Half Moon Pub in Herne Hill in South London. So Brixton ABC basically. I was the super heavyweight. Danny Williams was my junior, 10 years junior. Now, it was very difficult for me to get, because like I said, it was a small club. We weren't that, compared to the neighboring club, that the Lynn Athletic Club, Fitzroy Lodge, they were like our rivals, Fisher Boys. So the only sparring I could really get in-house was in-house sparring. That was against Danny Williams, like I said. So when I was 26 years old, the kid was like, man, 16 years old. Yeah. Sparring me, full spar. Obviously, our coach, Floyd Alexandra, who said to me, look, he's only a kid, hold back on him. Just use him for various things to let him chuck shots, use it for your defense, pop some shots at him to make him know you're there, stuff like that. So he was my official sparring partner. And he used to hit like a man at the age of 16, So we had many, 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 many encounters. And I was so proud of what he went on to achieve in his career. He beat the great Mike Tyson, I mean, come on. Yeah, so that's a massive achievement. Henry Akiwanda boxed for the Lynn Athletics. And again, I think he's still one of the tallest boxers in history of the heavyweight division. Tyson Fury 6'9". I believe Henry Akon was in that region, 6'8", 6'9".
Okay.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, it was very, very, very. It wasn't as tricky as Henry wasn't as tricky as Tyson Fury, and IQ wise. No disrespect to Henry, is brilliant. He did very well, but like I said, that was when Henry was still an amateur before he turned over, and another person I sparred much later when I actually retired from an amateur competing is I sparred the Bone Crusher Smith, the American who went on to he was the first man to take Mike Tyson the full distance. I believe it's about 10 rounder or I think it was over 10 rounds.
Good fighter.
Yeah, he's a very strong man, very extraordinarily big set man. So yeah, there's nothing else really to tell apart from those experiences. Yeah, notably Danny, like I said, the age difference, and he hit like a man even at the age of 16. I knew he was going to go on to do things, and he did. He did very well for himself.
Are you surprised, Don, that Danny's still fighting at the age of 50? He turned out in April there of this year.
Yeah, that's. I've reached out a few times to say to him, don't do this, don't do it anymore. In fact, this has just prompted me. I'm gonna make another phone call. It's a bit late now. I'll make another phone call tomorrow. Every so often I put a call in to check on him. Yes, I'm sad to hear and see that he's still fighting. This really, yeah, it's not right.
What does
Yeah.
he say whenever you have the conversation with him?
I know he put his children through public private schools, so I know he was paying for the monies to pay for the kids' education. But this is a while ago, so I'm not at liberty to expand anymore. But
Yeah.
he was doing it for a good cause. You can't knock that a man who's working to put food on the table. Not only that, to send his children to private school, to give them a good start in life, so maybe they don't have to go and do what he does or what he did.
Absolutely. Respect to Danny Williams and respect to you as well, Don. We love you on the Boxing Asylum. The boys have thrown in a lot of questions. They've enjoyed the chat greatly. Do you have any final comments, any parting information you want to give to us ahead of obviously Daniel's big opportunity at the end of August?
Yes, just to say thank you for having me on again. It's been a while. And I like to say I want the country to get behind this young man. If we look at what happened to him with the Joe Joyce fight, he lost, his eye got damaged, and he came back from that. Even in his last fight with Trevor Bryant, he went and got when he won the WBA regular title, he went to America to capture that title, came back, he fought against Kevin Lerena in his last fight where his knee gave way. He went down 3 times. People who they're knocking him after the Joe Joyce fight that he was a quitter. So I think that Kevin Lerena fight will answer all those doubters. How can you be a quitter when you only had one leg? If they know to the extent of the injury he sustained, okay, and he got up the canvas 3 times to deliver a devastating knockout to Kevin Lerena, right? And now that's not a trait of a quitter, in my opinion. So anyway, fast forward, we've been presented with this opportunity where he's the mandatory challenger for the Oleksandr Usyk titles. And although we are eligible, as in it's for the WBA, where it's mandatory, but when you beat Usyk, then you take the other titles. So it's for the unified belts. Yes, I want the country to look at this young man. He's only 26 years old, to see what he's done. Get behind him. After all, when we win this, it's for Britain. Okay, it's for ourselves, but it's also for the country. So I urge everybody to, get behind us, get behind Daniel, to urge us to will us on to go and get this victory. And we really, really, truly believe, yeah, it's a great, great, great opportunity. Yeah, and we really believe, and we are not just belief is not enough. We are working, doing anything humanly possible to aid Daniel Dubois to go there and capture those belts and bring them back home. So please, the country, get behind this young man.